Hi, everybody. It's Deirdre Fay. And I got a great question from somebody, so I'm going to respond with a little drawing. Somebody wanted to know, why should I slow down when I have triggers? I want to get out of them. I don't want to have to be with them any longer than I have to. Who can relate? Like, isn't that the truth? We all want that. So there's real reasons why, and I'm going to talk briefly about them. I'm going to do a whole series of free videos soon on releasing yourself from triggers and the solutions to that, the secrets around that. So that's going to be coming up. But let me start with this. So here's my handy dandy clipboard. So if we're here, right, and this is this moment, because we're still in 2019, we're going to go there. And this is the past. And here's all the charged material, right, that we have. Often we have tons of what I call just memory stored away. The charged ones, and sometimes we have lots of charged ones, and sometimes not sometimes, we all have positive memories, but usually they're overlooked. These big ones take over so much. So here's what happens. We do our best to shove all this stuff down and not pay attention to it in any way. And we live up here and we do our life and we just are moving through, right? We're just moving through our life. But the problem is all this charged material is still here, like ready to bonk us over the head. Sounds terrible. I shouldn't be saying that. So this is kind of the before. And what we want to do, let me choose another color here. I think I have one yet. Green. Green for calming and soothing and reassuring. So what we want to do in those situations is if we're running on top and we're moving really quickly and all this is trying to stay buried underneath, what we want to do is be able to be here and link it just a little bit. Just take a tiny bit out. Not the whole thing, right? Because the whole thing is overwhelming and hard. So if we take it slow, and we take a tiny bit, just this tiny little chunk, and we metabolize it, we are able to sit with it, which is why we need to slow down. We need to take our time. If we're moving fast, we're not going to be able to be like, just take this tiny chunk. We're actually going to get flooded. We think that there's a better way, but if we slow it down, we can actually narrow this window, narrow this field that we're looking at, and just take in this, which is overwhelming, and not have to deal with this, which is sort of contrary to our whole way of thinking. So when we do, we take this little bit and we keep stitching these pieces together, right? We're not running on top of our experience. We're not pushing and shoving everything down, compartmentalizing, but we're taking a tiny little bit at a time, tiny little bit at a time, and we're stitching it together into 2019 from the past. And when we do that, we actually gain more control. Isn't that the craziest thing? You think that's the opposite. But when we take it slow and take a bit at a time, we gain control over this whole experience. Rather than be this coming up and flooding us, we're actually literally able to stay in a certain part of the brain, prefrontal cortex, and begin to modulate this experience inside instead of this overwhelming us. Does this make sense? Gwen is asking, what do you recommend doing if we get flooded, overwhelmed? Is right. Exactly this, Gwen, exactly this. When we're flooded, that means that this has taken over this, right? That this doesn't exist. When we're flooded, overwhelmed, it's because this is taken over the picture. So our task is, and this is true for all of us, is how do I ground myself in here so that I can be with this and integrate it and link it without being overwhelmed by it. But that's why we need to slow down. That's why we need to calm our bodies, hearts, and minds so that we can stay here and just put a tiny toe. That's all we need is a tiny toe. We don't have to try to excavate this whole thing all at once. That is going to lead to being cluttered and overwhelmed and dysregulated. But if we take just the tiniest little bit and stay here in 2019, we begin to integrate it. This is the integrative process. And we link it. We link, that's another word I use a lot, link this with this. And when we do, we're going to feel better. We're not going to be as dysregulated. We're not going to be as overwhelmed. And we're going to be able to make our way through a little bit more. Now, I want to check. Gwen already gave some comments. What about the rest of you? Want to hear? Here's some notes I made, so I want to just check what else I was thinking. So what does help, and these are really the basic building blocks to living a better life. It helps to slow down for sure. And in the present, we can find a doorway to the past without being overwhelmed by the past. So that's key. And then as we do that, we access a bit of the past, not the whole of it, not the overwhelming amount of it, but just a bit of it. And we begin to see all the protests we have, and we get to see the unmet needs that are there. And this is a whole other topic that gets a little complicated, but it's so important, right? I'm going to go through this in the free videos here, and I'll actually put a link down here, I think, for that. And then, so we need to know what our protests are, what we're so upset about. We need to know what the unmet need is, and then we need to know how to orient to what we want instead of being overwhelmed by the past. So let's say we're here in 2019, we're overwhelmed by the past. We need to be able to orient to where we want to go. We want to go here. We don't want to go down here and be flooded. Our task then is how to stay here in 2019. And I think this is the biggest piece that most people struggle with. Let me just see one more thing. Oh, I was going to do another drawing, but I didn't conceptualize it enough in my head to be able to share it with you. So what do you guys think? Post your comments below. Let me know if this is helpful, if you want more of it, and if you want me to orient in a different way too, so that I can keep making it more clear. There are steps out of being triggered. Somebody said they just don't want to get triggered. Well, you know what? I understand completely. I used to think, if I could just figure out the secret solution, we wouldn't have to get triggered. I wouldn't have to get triggered anymore. And this is not true. The reality is life is triggering. And we can use those triggers to actually help us grow and develop. We do not have to get trapped in it. Triggers have a fundamental healing component. I know. It's a little counterintuitive and crazy. But if we use them, then we can shift. Gwen saying, I assume daily practice and grounding. Yes, whatever practice you do, I have a ton of them. There are many out there, so use what you can to stay grounded in the present moment, because that gives you access to what's next. Okay, and when I'm done, I will put that link down below, and we will then have some time. There's my hair looking a little weird there, you guys. We'll talk more. Bye. Oh, Anne-Marie, I'm so glad it's helpful. Thank you. That means a lot. You know, I love to do as much as I can to help people. It's just part of how it is. So really appreciate your feedback. Okay, everybody. I will, I'm going to Edinburgh on Saturday to lead a workshop there. So hopefully I'll be able to post some things along the way. Actually, I'll post while I'm at the conference, and I'll have to figure out the time zone. I always get confused on that, but I'll do my best and keep you posted and help you learn. All right, my friends. Pleasure to be with you.